She left her wedding ring in the cereal bowl. No note. No kiss goodbye. No morning coffee. Just the ring sitting there in a puddle of leftover milk and soggy cornflakes, like some kind of sick metaphor. I didn't even notice it at first. I poured cereal into the bowl, dumped in milk like I always do, and only when I went to stir it did I hear the clink. There it was. Her ring. Sitting at the bottom. Staring at me. For a second, I thought maybe I'd gone insane. Maybe it wasn't hers. Maybe it had fallen off during dishes last night. But then I remembered. She didn't do dishes last night. She didn't even come home. She'd told me she was going away to clear her head. Just for the weekend. Some kind of self-discovery thing. A digital detox. No service, no texts, no pressure. Just me and my thoughts, she said with that soft, detached voice she'd been using for months. And like an idiot, I nodded. I even offered to drive her. She declined. Of course she did. So I just stood there, cereal in hand, staring into a bowl like it could explain why my wife of nearly a decade decided to pull this cinematic stunt, vanishing act included. But the ring was just the start. That same afternoon, I got a call from her credit card company, fraud alert. Except it wasn't fraud. It was a $614 charge from a spa resort in Sand Hollow, 3 hours south of where she said she'd be camping in the woods with nothing but a journal and some herbal tea. I didn't even have to open the Maps app. I knew Sand Hollow. We'd talked about it once. She said it was too flashy for her. Guess her tastes changed. So I called the resort. I don't know what I expected. Maybe to hear they made a mistake. Maybe to confirm it wasn't her. But the lady at the front desk? She cheerfully told me yes, Miss Lenora Pike checked in last night. And yes, she was registered for a couples massage. Couples. I didn't say anything. I didn't scream. I just hung up. And then I did something that I honestly can't explain. I went into her closet and started packing. Not her things, mine. Free shirts, jeans, laptop, toothbrush, the bare minimum. Because something snapped in me right there under the fluorescent lights of our bedroom closet. I wasn't going to wait for her to come back with clarity. I wasn't going to sit on the couch like a chump, refreshing my phone, hoping she'd text me some vague, inspirational quote about growth. She wanted to find herself. She could do it without me. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I couldn't be there when she came back. That empty house had started to feel like a waiting room for something I didn't sign up for. Like I was just a placeholder husband, sitting politely while she figured out who she really wanted to be with. So I drove. No destination, just roads. I ended up 2 towns over in a motel that smelled like wet carpet and second chances. The front desk guy didn't even ask questions when I paid in cash. Maybe he saw it in my face. That kind of gut-punched look you can't hide, even behind forced smiles and a clean shave. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me, thinking about how she used to hate ceiling fans. Too noisy, she'd say. Too impersonal. And now she was lying in a king-sized bed at a resort with God knows who, probably sipping wine and calling it soul-searching while I counted cigarette burns in a blanket that smelled like bleach and regret. At around 2:30 a.m., I finally unlocked my phone. I hadn't wanted to look. I was afraid of what I might find. But the thing is, once you know the truth's out there, it festers in your head until you can't think of anything else. So I opened her email. She never logged out of her Gmail on my phone after we synced our calendars. Stupid, right? But that's how I found the reservation confirmation again. This time, I opened every attachment. Spa package, dinner reservations, wine tasting, romantic sunset horseback rides. It was basically a honeymoon, just not ours. Then came the photos. I didn't know Gmail synced her Google Photos, but they were there, dozens of them. She must have forgotten to turn off auto backup. The first one was just a view of the ocean from their balcony. The second, a close-up selfie, her head leaning on someone's shoulder. A man's shoulder. He had one of those tattoos that tries too hard to be meaningful, a compass or clock or something equally cliché. There was one where she kissed his cheek, another where he kissed hers, and the worst one, her hands on his chest, laughing like she hadn't laughed with me in years. Like she'd finally exhaled after holding her breath through our entire marriage. I stared at those photos until my eyes burned. Not because they shocked me. No, it was because a part of me knew this had been happening long before this weekend. She hadn't just found herself. She'd been slipping away piece by piece, right in front of me, and I just watched it happen like a fool watering a dead plant, hoping it would bloom again. But here's the part one still can't wrap my head around. She was still texting me. Not during the day, not when she was with him, but late at night. Little things. Hope you're okay. Thinking of you. Don't overthink things, Orville. That last one really got me. Don't overthink things. Like this wasn't the emotional equivalent of a house fire. Like I was being unreasonable for noticing the smoke. I didn't respond. Instead, I booked a session with a real estate agent I found online at 3 a.m. Her name was Lacey. She had 5 stars and a quote on her site that said, "Fresh starts are my specialty." That sounded good enough for me. I sent her a message, interested in listing a home. Might be moving alone. She replied within 10 minutes. I don't know why she was awake. I didn't ask. By morning, I had a showing scheduled for Tuesday and an appointment with a divorce attorney for Thursday. Lenora still had no idea. She thought she'd come home to the same soft-spoken, quiet man who never argued when she stayed out too late, who cooked dinner even when she was too tired to eat, who asked, "Are you okay?" more than he ever asked, "Are we okay?" But that man was gone, and I was starting to wonder if he ever really existed, or if I just built him to make her happy. The strangest part was how normal everything looked when I got back to the house. I only returned for one reason. I forgot my birth certificate. Not dramatic, I know, but I needed it for the lawyer, and it was still in the bottom drawer of the old filing cabinet that Lenora always said we should digitize one day. Funny how everything with her was always one day. One day we'd fix the fence. One day we'd travel. One day we'd start trying. One day we'd be better. All those one days added up to nothing. When I walked through the door, it was like I'd stepped into a frozen photograph of a life I no longer belonged to. Her cardigan was still draped over the arm of the couch. A pair of her shoes, the ones she only wore to impress people, sat by the door like she'd be back any minute to slide into them and play the role of the perfect wife. I didn't touch anything, not even the remote. I just went to the office, grabbed what I needed, and on the way out, I saw her journal. It was sitting on the kitchen table, brown leather cover, monogrammed. I'd given it to her last Christmas because she said she wanted to start writing again. Apparently, she had, and apparently, she wasn't smart enough to lock it. Now, I'm not proud of what I did next, but if you've ever had the floor drop out from under your life, you understand. Curiosity doesn't ask for permission. I opened it. First page was innocent. Dumb poetry. Some gratitude list with my name still on it. Page 2. Different tone. Day 1. I feel alive with Marcus. That's what scares me. Marcus. There he was. A name. A real person. Not just a shoulder. Not just a tattoo. A name. A man. Someone who makes her feel seen. Who asks about her day and actually listens. Page after page, entry after entry, it was all there. How they met. How she told him she felt invisible at home. How he told her she deserved more. How they had their first kiss in our garage when she claimed she was out grocery shopping. She even described what she wore. My flannel. The one I thought she liked because it smelled like me. But the part that broke me wasn't the affair. It was this line, halfway down a page scribbled in blue pen. I love Orville. I just don't love our life. That's what gutted me. Not because it was cruel, but because I understood it. Somewhere along the way, I stopped fighting for the life we had. I settled. I shrank. I bent to fit her changing needs and forgot I had any of my own. She didn't destroy us alone. I handed her the hammer. But still, she was the one who broke it. I took a photo of every page of that journal. Every single one. Not for revenge, but for clarity. For when she came home and tried to gaslight me. For when she said it was just a weekend. For when she said it didn't mean anything. I wanted the truth to stare her in the face the same way it had stared at me in that motel room while the ceiling fan hummed and my entire identity collapsed. And then I left. Again. Only this time, I didn't just leave the house. I left our life. I turned off my phone, transferred the money out of the joint account, froze the credit cards. I called Lacey, the real estate agent, and told her to schedule the walkthrough early. Sell it as fast as you can, I said. I don't care what it goes for. Just make sure it's gone. By the time Lenora would come back, the door she left would no longer exist. She came home on a Monday. I know that because the Ring camera caught her dragging her suitcase up the steps like she was returning from some business trip, not a weekend-long betrayal. I wasn't there to greet her. She used her key like nothing had changed. Same lock, same door, same entryway. But the silence waiting for her on the other side? That wasn't the same. The air must have felt heavier. Stiller. like a pause button had been pressed on the entire house. She called me 3 times that day. I didn't answer. She texted. First, just a casual, "Hey, I'm back." Then, "Where are you?" Then finally, "Orville, you're scaring me. Call me." Scaring her? That was rich. She didn't even know what fear was. Not yet. By Tuesday, she realized something was off. She called her bank, called her job, texted me again, long, rambling messages about confusion and how she didn't understand what's going on. But she did. Deep down, she knew. She just didn't think I'd do anything, because I never had before. But see, that was the problem. I'd always forgiven, always folded. I was her emotional punching bag, the husband-shaped ghost she could ignore until she needed validation or dinner or someone to nod while she spiraled about her latest life revelation. On Wednesday, I finally answered. One word, journal. That was all I sent her, and she knew exactly what it meant. I didn't need to explain. I didn't need to yell. That one word hit her harder than anything I could have screamed. Because that journal wasn't just paper. It was her mask falling off. It was every private lie she told herself, written in her own ink, staring back at her like a mirror she couldn't smash. Within 5 minutes, she called me 6 times. I didn't pick up. Instead, I watched the Ring cam as she stumbled out the front door in a full panic, looking up and down the street like I might be hiding in a bush or something. She even shouted my name once. Loud. Like the neighborhood needed to know just how badly she'd messed up. Later that night, she tried a different tactic. She emailed me. Subject, please. She poured her heart into that message, or what was left of it. She blamed stress, blamed hormones, blamed me. Said Marcus was a mistake that only happened because she was emotionally neglected. The usual greatest hits from people who burn down houses and then cry about the smoke. She didn't apologize for the affair. Not directly. Just kept saying things like, "You didn't see how unhappy I was," and "I thought we were drifting, Orville." Funny how I was the one she thought was drifting, while she was out riding horses into the sunset with a man who drinks lavender cocktails and wears sandals indoors. But here's what really stuck with me. Near the end of her email, she wrote, "I need to talk to you face to face. I still believe we're worth something." That made me laugh out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly her. She didn't want to fix what we had. She wanted to fix how she looked now that she got caught. She wanted to talk face to face so she could perform, cry, reach for my hand, try to remind me of old vacations and inside jokes, make me forget the photos, the lies, the fact that she used my flannel while making out with a man I'd never even heard of. But I wasn't giving her that chance. Instead, I sent her one last thing, a video. It was just 10 seconds long. A slow, silent shot of me walking out of our house, suitcase in hand, stopping only to place her ring on top of that same cereal bowl where I found it. Then the front door closing. Then nothing. I thought the silence would last longer. I imagined she'd crawl into that silence and stew there for days, maybe weeks, trying to piece together the ruins. But Lenora doesn't do silence. She never could sit with stillness, not even during arguments. She always had to fill the air with noise, explanations, justifications, anything to keep from admitting she was wrong. That's why it didn't surprise me when I got the call from her sister Mallory the very next day. Mallory's voice was calm, too calm. The kind of calm people use when they're standing on thin ice, trying not to crack it. "Orville," she said gently. "Lenora's not doing great." I didn't respond. "She's crying nonstop," Mallory went on. "Says you left without warning. She's scared. She doesn't know where you are. She says she made a mistake." A mistake. It always comes down to that, doesn't it? They never say betrayal. Never say deception. Never say they chose to blow a hole through someone's chest. They say mistake. Like she accidentally tripped and fell onto another man's lips. Like she accidentally booked a romantic getaway for 2 and wore my flannel while kissing him under string lights. I wanted to hang up, but Mallory kept talking. "She's been staying at Mom's place. She's not eating. She asked me to talk to you, to see if you'd be willing to meet." I almost laughed. Lenora had gone radio silent for a weekend so she could find herself, and now that she'd been found out, she wanted me to meet her like this with some indie movie with closure and hugs, and maybe a hopeful soundtrack. But there was no soundtrack. Just a buzz of rage deep in my gut that I'd buried under too many swallowed apologies over the years. Still, something about Mallory's voice kept me from saying no outright. Maybe it was the guilt, or curiosity, or stupidity, but I said I'd think about it, and that was enough to make her sigh in relief like she'd just diffused a bomb. I didn't agree to meet Lenora. Not yet. But that night, I checked the ring cam again. She'd been back. Around 11:17 p.m., the camera caught her stepping onto the porch. No suitcase this time. Just her, wrapped in a coat too thin for the wind, carrying a small brown paper bag. She bent down, placed it gently in front of the door, and just stood there for nearly 2 minutes. Frozen, not moving, not crying, just standing, like maybe she thought if she waited long enough, I'd open the door, even if I wasn't inside. She finally walked away, but not before whispering something I could barely hear on the footage. I had to boost the audio just to make it out. She said, "I didn't mean to fall in love with him." She didn't say she was sorry. She didn't say she chose wrong. She didn't say she loved me. She said she didn't mean to fall in love with him, which was somehow so much worse than if she'd said it was all meaningless. I stared at that video for a long time. Then I opened the door to see what she left behind. The paper bag was still there when I drove back. Inside was my favorite coffee, the one she used to tease me about because it was too expensive, and a small, folded note. "Please come back. I can't fix this alone." She was right. She couldn't fix it alone. Because some things you break on purpose don't come with repair instructions. I didn't respond to her note. Not that night. Not the next morning either. I wanted to. God, part of me wanted to. There was this pathetic voice in the back of my head that kept saying, "She's hurting. You should at least acknowledge her pain." But that was the same voice that told me to apologize after fights I didn't start. The same voice that convinced me to keep showing up even when she stopped looking up from her phone. That voice had been lying to me for years, and I was finally starting to recognize its tone. But it didn't end with the paper bag. Lenora started trying harder, like she'd flipped a switch. Suddenly, I was getting emails, texts, voicemails, the kind that sounded rehearsed but desperate. She kept calling it a lapse in judgment, like cheating was just a wrong turn off the highway. In one message, she said she'd ended things with Marcus. "I told him it was over," she wrote. "It was a mistake. You're the only man I've ever truly loved." It almost worked. That line, the familiarity of it. How many times had she said that to me in the early years? It used to mean something. Back when she'd hold my face in her hands and say it like a vow. Now, it just felt like a strategy. Like she was searching for the magic phrase that would unlock my forgiveness. So I did something I hadn't done in a while. I called someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. Ezra, my college roommate. The guy who saw me through broken hearts before Lenora was even in the picture. He lived across the state now, had 2 kids, a mortgage, a golden retriever, the whole reset package. I told him everything. No filter, just the raw, embarrassing truth. He didn't offer cliches, didn't tell me to work it out or be the bigger man. He just said, "Do you want her back?" I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. Or maybe I did and just didn't want to admit it. He said, "You don't have to stay angry forever, man, but you also don't have to stay at all." That line stuck with me, not in a dramatic way. It just echoed quietly whenever I'd find myself replaying her voice messages or rereading the journal screenshots I saved. I didn't have to stay angry forever, but I also didn't have to pretend like nothing happened. The next morning, I opened my email. There was a new message from her, longer than the others. She said she was going to therapy, said she understood now what she'd done to me, that it wasn't just about the cheating, it was the disrespect, the erasure, the months of emotional coldness that came long before the affair. She admitted she stopped choosing me day after day and just assumed I'd always be there. She wrote, "If I were you, I wouldn't forgive me either." That line hit different. It was the first time she wasn't pleading. She was just telling the truth. No excuses, no poetic spin, just raw honesty. And strangely, it didn't make me feel closer to her. It made me realize how long I'd been tolerating crumbs and calling it a meal. Later that day, I went back to the house one last time. The for sale sign was already in the yard. Lacey had scheduled a showing for the weekend. I walked through the place like it was someone else's memory. Everything looked smaller somehow, less warm. I packed up the last of my things, some tools, a few shirts, the old album from our first road trip. I almost left that album behind, but I took it, not out of sentiment, just because I wanted to decide what parts of the past I'd keep. As I locked the door, I saw a car parked 2 houses down. Her car. She was sitting behind the wheel, gripping the steering wheel like she was trying to squeeze the outcome into existence. She didn't get out. I didn't wave. We just looked at each other through 2 layers of glass, like strangers peering into a life neither of us belonged to anymore. Then I turned my back to her and left, again. But this time, it didn't feel like running. It felt like returning to myself. I thought she'd give up after that last encounter, or at least accept the silence. But no, Lenora doesn't go quiet. Not when she's losing. And definitely not when the version of herself she's curated starts falling apart in front of people she still wants to impress. That weekend, I got a message I didn't expect. Not from her, from Marcus's wife. Yeah, turns out I wasn't the only one who found her journal. Marcus had been lying too. He told Lenora he was separated. Classic line. His wife, her name was Darla, forwarded me a screenshot of a message Lenora had sent him after the affair supposedly ended. "I miss your touch," it said. "My husband won't even look at me anymore. I wish it was still you." Darla included a short note. "I think you deserve to know who you're forgiving." I didn't respond to her, either. But I read that message at least 10 times, not out of disbelief, but because I needed the sting. I needed the burn to cauterize whatever thread of guilt was still keeping me from cutting Lenora off completely. And it worked. The next time Lenora texted me, just a heart emoji, like that would fix anything, I blocked her. But here's the kicker. The following morning, she showed up at my temporary apartment. I still don't know how she found the address. Maybe Mallory. Maybe she followed Lacey. Either way, she was suddenly there, knocking at my door like we were still married, like I hadn't watched my entire life with her dissolve in a few digital frames and one soft-spoken lie after another. She was crying. She wore my college hoodie, the one I hadn't seen in years, probably buried in the back of a drawer she never let me open. She said she made coffee, that she brought pastries, that she just wanted to talk. I didn't let her in. I didn't say a word. I looked her straight in the eye, then closed the door. And I swear, I heard her break down the second it latched. I didn't hear from her again after that. No texts, no voicemails, no sudden doorstep ambushes. Just silence, the kind I used to beg for in our final years together. The kind that once felt like punishment, but now felt like peace. For a while, I didn't know what to do with that peace. It was like standing in the middle of an empty stage after the curtain drops. No more lines. No more pretending. Just quiet. But then, the quiet started to feel like freedom. I moved officially 2 weeks later. A small town, nothing fancy. Rented a place with creaky floors and bad lighting, but it was mine. The first night, I cooked pasta at midnight just because I could. No comments about carbs. No side eyes about late meals. I sat on the floor with a paper plate and realized I wasn't lonely. I was finally alone, and there's a difference. Lacey, the real estate agent, stayed in touch. Not professionally, just checking in. She'd text once in a while, funny observations, weird listings, random memes. She never pried, never asked about Lenora. It wasn't anything serious, not at first, but there was something gentle in the way she spoke to me, like she saw the cracks and didn't feel the need to point them out. We got coffee one afternoon, then again the next week, then dinner, and for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like I had to prove I was worthy of staying. I could just be. I told her everything, not on the first date, but over time. And when I did, she didn't flinch. She just said, "You went through hell. You deserve something simple now." And I believed her. Lenora never apologized in person, never sent a letter, never owned it face to face. I don't know if she ever will, but I no longer need her to. I thought closure would come from confrontation, some big, dramatic final conversation where I say all the things I rehearsed in the mirror. But the real closure? It came from choosing a life where I don't have to be someone else just to be loved. The house sold fast. Lacey got me more than I expected. She smiled when she handed me the final check and said, "Fresh starts, right?" I laughed, not because it was funny, but because she was right. It was a fresh start. And this time, I'm not waiting on anyone to choose me. I already did.